This is So You Think You Know Jesus, a podcast that will challenge Christian paradigms, uproot traditions of men, and in the end, energize your faith by grounding you in solid biblical truths as you learn to see Scripture through the eyes of the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua. Welcome, author and speaker Rabbi Jeff Grillo of the Rock of Israel Congregation in North Carolina, a Messianic synagogue that is part of the National Jewish Fellowship of the Assemblies of God. Now, Rabbi Jeff.
All right. Shalom, and welcome to another episode of So You Think You Know Jesus, podcast that is an outreach of the Rock of Israel Congregation in Hickory, North Carolina, where I am blessed beyond measure to be serving there as the rabbi. And it's a pleasure to be here to serve you today. So, I think this is episode 20 now. It's kind of a milestone, so woo, woo. We're going to be looking at something that is literally, we're going to call this the heart of God. And it's something that Christians really, by and large, unless they're kind of already on to the Messianic path of doing things and have interest in the Jewish roots, those folks probably know about this. And the rest of what I like to call the church at large, they really have no idea. And it's really a valuable tool. And I know this podcast is called So You Think You Know Jesus, right? So thus far, it's been all about him. And this is going to be about him in a bit of an indirect way. And I'm thinking about the coming episodes, maybe, possibly, no guarantee, you'll have to tune in next week to find out. But I'm thinking of kind of elaborating on what we'll be talking about here today, just so you can catch the magnitude of how deep and awesome this is. So what am I talking about? What is the heart of God? In order for me to tell you about that, I first have to tell you about something called the parashah. It's the Hebrew word that literally means portion. And it is what I like to call the original Through the Bible in a Year course, for lack of a better term. Perhaps, I got something in my teeth, though, since this is on camera. Hopefully that's not being seen. Oh, my goodness. We may have to edit that out. But anyway, I digress. So the Torah portion is, again, the original Through the Bible in a Year. It's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, the first 5 books of our Bible, of first 5 of the Tanakh, which is what the Jews call, what Christians call the Old Testament. They call the Tanakh. It's basically a system of reading through the entire Torah from Genesis 1 all the way through the end of the book of Deuteronomy in a systematic way that is not at all willy-nilly, that somebody just concocted away a reading plan and said there's this many days in a year and we have to divide up this many chapters by that, and thus we have a reading plan. It's not like that at all. These are divinely inspired, and you will see that in the coming weeks when I start to explain and unfold for you how they are divinely inspired and how they line up with things that are very important. So, The Torah portion was instituted by Ezra the scribe of the book of Esther and Nehemiah came out of the Babylonian captivity when they realized that the Torah had basically been not lost, but the people didn't have it, and when they heard it. When they set up the bema, the pulpit, if you will, and they began to read the Torah scrolls, the people stood and they wept. So realizing how incredibly important Torah is in the daily life of believers, and it should be a daily part of all of our lives, even as if you call yourself Christian or you call yourself Messianic, we're really all part of the same family, and it's something that we should incorporate into our daily lives. So these are, this is going to sound maybe a little weird, a little just mystical or weird, and it's really not. And I encourage you to come back for the following episodes. I'm going to have to do this because I guess I can't leave people hanging too long. But every portion, each weekly portion of scriptures are aligned, and I will demonstrate that as we go forward, with certain windows in heaven, or doorways, or gateways, or whatever you want to think of them as. These certain connection points with heaven, with Shemaim, right? There's that concept in Judaism, as above, so below. We are a mere reflection, or should be a reflection, of that which is above. So each of these line up with some amazing things in the book of Genesis with regard to the days of creation. We'll look at that, and then it just goes from there. It gets pretty deep, pretty wild, pretty fast. And this is probably going to be one of the shorter messages. I just want to sort of set the groundwork for what is to come. But so it's a cycle. Every year, after the High Holy Days conclude, they begin reading the Torah again from the beginning. It's a day called Simchat Torah, the joy of Torah, and it begins again. And then all year long, we read it. And part of the thing that's pretty cool, pretty amazing, is that because it's a known thing in Judaism and again in Messianic circles, that no matter where you are in the world, whether you're in Israel or you're in Canada or Mexico or Peru or Johannesburg, South Africa, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're a Jew or if you're Messianic, you may not know anybody where you are, where you're traveling or visiting or working. But if you happened upon a fellow believer, again, whether it's a Messianic believer or a follower of Judaism, you automatically have something in common. You automatically have something to talk about. Why? Because everyone is studying the same portion, or should be, right? And that's the idea. That's the plan. And I'll just narrow this to the body of Messiah. How wonderful it would be if all of us, not just the Messianic community, but again, the Christian church at large, kind of caught on to this. Talk about being echad, being one, all right? Because he wants us to be echad, just as he and the Father are echad. And because we are one body. And if we were united, we had unity in what we were teaching and studying and focusing on in the Word every week. Not that pastors and rabbis can't or don't teach other things. It's again, it's just something that is done. Anyway, it's the basis. It's the foundation of everything. So as we go through this cycle, it's a benefit, it's a blessing, not only to us as individuals, but to the body as a whole. Because again, when we meet, when we come together, we have something in common, even if we've never met. We have that day's portion to talk about. Now, here's something that's interesting. So the very last word in the Torah, the very last word in Deuteronomy is Yisrael, Israel. And the very first word of Genesis is Bereshit, means in the beginning. The very last letter of the last word, Yisrael, that L sound is coming from the Hebrew letter Lamed. And the B sound in Bereshit is a bait. Okay, it's the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Together, Lamed Beit spell a word. The word is Leb, and it means heart. So, coincidence? I don't know, you decide. But I find beauty in this, and I think most believers who understand how this all works see the beauty in it as well. That because it's circular, it's cyclical, it's a never-ending thing. You finish the Torah and you get right back to the beginning, and heaven forbid you think, oh, that's boring. Why read the same thing every year? Oh, no, the word is alive and sharper than any two-edged sword. It is deeper beyond comprehension. I've been a rabbi for, I don't even know, like 13, 14 years now, whatever it's been. and I'm blown away every year. Every time I read through a Torah portion, I see something new. Yeah, I see things that I've seen before. And it's good reminders and good reinforcement. But there's always something new. And again, that's part of the beauty of being part of the body of Messiah. When we get together, no two people see things exactly the same way. And again, as many people as there are in the world, there's no exhausting the depth of Torah. So it's iron sharpening iron when we get together. Well, hey, I see it like this, and this is what I got out of this Torah portion. Wow, that's great. You know what? This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing from that, and then we go back and forth, and just come to a deeper understanding and a closer walk with Messiah. But this is His heart, and remember also, and this is kind of the it's not a directly teaching on Yeshua, as the podcast would imply or suggest, right? But it is at the same time. Because John said in the first chapter, in the beginning was the Devarim, it was the Word, right? And the Word was with God, the Word was God. And then later on we're told that very word, that Devarim, that logos in the Greek, became flesh and dwelt among men, tabernacled with us. It's a picture of Messiah in so many ways that, this is one of the things that just gets me crazy when we get believers that say, we're not under the law. The law has been done away with. Oh my goodness. How, you just can't make that argument make sense in light of Matthew chapter 5, 17 and following, and 1 John 2, where we're told that we ought to therefore walk as Messiah walked. He was a Torah observant Jew. He is the Torah made flesh. How can it be done away with? He's not going to do away with himself. He's just not. And the very heart of God is shown in that cyclical cycle. We're ending with Yisrael, the Lamed, and beginning with the Beit and Bereshit. And we get the picture of the heart of God. You want to get closer to the heart of God? You want to know the heart of God? You have to study His Word. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science. Or as a friend of mine used to like to say, it's not rocket surgery. It's just the way it is. And listen, I just want you to ponder on that for the coming week. And starting next week, we're going to get into these Torah portions, at least the first few. You're going to love it.
Thanks for learning with us today. For more information and resources, or to invite Rabbi Jeff to speak at your church or next event, call 1-828-201-2883. Once again, that's 1-828-201-2883. Or visit myroic.org. That's myroic.org. Shalom.